Yep.
So the claim that I'll be refuting this morning is that psychotropic drugs have been prescribed as a treatment for children's mental health and well-being at the expense of physical activity as an alternate treatment. The secondary claims that the person used were doctors' first line of defense is to prescribe medication. Research has shown that sleep and neurological disorders go hand in hand, and our brain benefits from physical activity. The first secondary claim that they had, which was the doctor's first line of defense is to prescribe medication. While making this claim, Debbie used the article Sleep Drugs Often Prescribed for Kids, which was also sourced while presenting this claim. It said that 18.6 million child's doctor's visits were relating to sleep problems were evaluated, and 81% of those were concluded with a prescription. Then she went on to list the negative consequences that could come from these prescriptions. However, she did not inform you that on the same article it stated that through the process of trial and error, medicine can help and be effective. It also said that William Kohler, medical director of the Florida Sleep Institute in Spring Hills, said that medicine can help, and once improvement is made, the child should be weaned off of that medication to see what the lowest dose that they need is. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 60% of the youth in 2016 did not seek medical treatment. 19% only went to health professionals, meaning that they were seeking psychotherapy and different things with the professionals. 19% also went to medical professionals and seeked medication, while only 2% of it only seeked medication. This shows that through the process of trial and error, people are finding what's right for them. They're finding if maybe the therapy helps them and they don't need the medication, or maybe they need both, or for that 2%, the only using medication is what's right for that person. The next secondary claim was that research has shown that through sleep and neurological disorders go hand in hand. While presenting for this, she used the article, Your Kid's Brain on Exercise. In this article, it states that sleep is good for children because more sleep could have mental benefits like improved concentration, improved moods, and improved amount of sleep, which according to PsyCom are also all benefits that can come from using medications. However, this article never once mentions neurological disorders. This completely throws out the secondary claim because there is no proof that neurological disorders and sleep go hand in hand. The last secondary claim was that our brain benefits from physical activity. To prove this, Debbie showed how researchers have found that physical activity can lead to proteins being created in the brain to fend off future illness and diseases. Personally, I don't believe that anyone would ever fight against the fact that physical activity would have benefits such as stimulation in the brain. However, there are mental setbacks that can come from some kinds of physical activity. According to Psychology Today, when participating in things like sports, kids can face these kinds of problems. Self-esteem issues when they lose games. They could be facing the problem of when they lose a game, they could be thinking, oh my god, it's my fault. When they lose a team and they feel like they let their team down, that could have major problems for them. Coaches who demoralize and bully. A lot of the times coaches get told, oh, it's just the coach, it's just the coach. The coach should be able to coach. However, there are some coaches out there who will go through and embarrass the kid because they think that embarrassing them is the tactic, when maybe embarrassing them in front of their peers is the thing that could be setting them back at home and could be setting them back mentally. Next is the delusions that sports could offer scholarships. This is a big one nowadays, especially in high school kids. Kids go through all of their life playing the same sport or playing different sports thinking this is what's going to get them to college. This is going to get them to the thing of the college that they want, and this is going to get them to their dream. A lot of the times now, kids go through being the best in their cities, thinking, I'm going to get the scholarship easily, I'm the best in the town. However, they're not the best because there's a kid one school over who is that much better than them. Next is the strained relationships between kids and over-invested parents. This could have a big problem because if the parents are more invested than the kid, when the child's team loses, the parents could get so upset that it has a mental toll on the child because the child thinks that they're disappointing their parents. Nobody wants to know that they're a disappointment. Next is unhealthy performance pressure. Unhealthy performance pressure could be a problem because if they're having so much pressure on them by their peers, their parents, and their coaches, they could be sacrificing other things in their lives. They could be sacrificing things that make them happy, and they could be sacrificing things like schoolwork, which will help them in the end. The next is the inappropriate feelings of superiority. This could set kids back because it could take the kids who are on a winning streak and place them above other kids and isolate them because they think they're better. And it could take things and make kids feel down because their peers are pushing them down because they think they're better. In conclusion, I would like to remind everyone that through the process of trial and error, medication is a good option for those with a mental illness, and that there is no evidence that sleep and neurological disorders go hand in hand, and that our brain could benefit from physical activity, but it also could have mental setbacks.
Right, the structural stuff is all very clear, so we're in good shape there. On the first point, you've got some information that seems to talk about what the total number of people are who are seeking treatment, how many get different kinds of treatment, and I'm not exactly sure how that contrasts to the information that the advocate was presenting. There is some information that says only 2% are actually seeking medication. But there's also information in your own argument that suggests that a lot of them get medication, almost at 20%, I guess it's 19% that you've got that. I'm not exactly sure how that matches up with the argument that the advocate was presenting that said that like a doctor's automatic position is to default to medication. The trial and error argument, I think, is a little bit better, where you and you're trying to apply that argument to that notion that says doctors, they're trying different things. They go to, and maybe that's because they go to multiple doctors. Maybe that's the argument that you're making there. Also, that was a little unclear. I did like the suggestion that the doctors often prescribe medication, for instance, for sleep, and then the goal is to wean people off of that to see what the minimum amount is, which seems to suggest that that it's not just a default position, give them a pill and get them out of the office, which seemed to be the implication that the advocate had, but rather they're looking for something that's going to be effective for the child, and also something that's the least invasive or the minimum amount that they can do. So I see how all that information is connected. I'm not sure that you're doing as good a job of making the connection to the advocate's argument as you need to. It's there. It just feels like I don't think it's being made as forcefully and effectively as it could be. The second point, you're challenging the notion that there's a relationship between the neurological and the issues that are being talked about here, and the sleep issues. And it's a good press. I think it's a reasonable argument to be making here. I'm not sure I'm convinced either way by the advocate's argument or by your position, and this is the point that is the least developed in the presentation, so I'm not sure in the long run how important it is in the argument. Your third argument, I think you basically have a lot of counterclaims to certain kinds of physical activity, not necessarily. I don't want to say it's a clear equivocation, but there is a potential equivocation argument here. You're treating the physical activity that the advocate might be talking about as if it is organized sports, and organized sports are a type of physical activity, but they may not be the only type of physical activity, and they may not be the kind of physical activity that the advocate's talking about, which would mean that some of those things are not going to be applicable to the argument. And that's where you spend all of your time. That's like I won't say half of your time, but a substantial amount of your time is spent, maybe the last 2 minutes of your argument is about all these crappy things that happen with kids who participate in organized sports. They feel bad about themselves because they lose. They feel bad about themselves because the other kids are better than them. They get embarrassed by the coaches when they're in that situation. And there's a lot of information there that all comes from the one article. I assume that's all from the one article that you're talking about. Otherwise, it's a whole bunch of hypotheticals. So I'm assuming you're kind of paraphrasing what's in the article there. And that's like I said, that's an okay response, but I'm not sure that it is automatically talking about everything that she's talking about, and I think you need to have a little bit more challenge to the notion that, you know, a kid with ADD is going to be fixed by, you know, running 12 laps every day, or that you know, some kid who has a sleep disorder participating in baseball is going to make a difference in that. I mean, there are lots of ways to make the application of the argument, and I think you've picked one thing and you're missing some other things that you needed to make arguments about. All right, thank you.